Yes, I think so.
Hey, hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for your time joining us on behalf of Big Data AI Asia or Singapore. We welcome you, and together with the panel of speakers here, all welcome you today. My name is Rachel, MD from Accenture, lead for our Industry X.0, that's 4.0 and evolution of it. Today, I'm going to be your moderator, and we're going to have very interesting time because I have very nice speakers here with me, and we're going to enjoy our dialogue, and please enjoy along with me as well. So just a bit of housekeeping in terms of the overview. We'll address 4 key questions and discuss the future of AI and big data, especially the impact the COVID and pandemic has brought to us today. And we have, of course, this wonderful 3 speakers. I'll let them introduce themselves. Along the way, we're going to have poll questions. We have the first, before we start the questions, we have got 4 questions to discuss. And then we have another poll question in the middle of it, and we end with the final poll question, and then you can ask any Q&A towards the last 10 minutes. So that's kind of the flow, but without further ado, let me just allow my panel of speakers to introduce themselves. Pranav, why don't you introduce yourself and say hello to everyone?
Sure. Hi, Rachel. Hi, the fellow panelists, and hello, everybody. I'm Pranav. I am the CEO for Petronas Lubricants India. I look after the India and South Asia region. I've been a professional for over 20 years. I've done first life of my professional career was in consulting. So I did technology consulting, strategy consulting, and amongst others. In the second half of my career, I've been an operations guy. So I've transitioned from giving advice to using my own advice and implementing my own strategies with Petronas. And I'm really excited to be a part of this panel, and I bring in a perspective of a user of a technology, you know, the person who uses it to make impact on the P&L and the balance sheet. So perhaps a different perspective from the other, elite panelists that we have here. So that's all from me,
Fantastic.
Rachel. Over to you.
Awesome. So good to have you here, Pranav. So you're able to give us perspective from all aspects of things. So really looking forward for the dialogue. How about Klaus? You want to introduce yourself and say hello to everyone here?
Yes. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm here in my home office in Singapore. So I'm located also in Singapore. I'm the COO of Schaeffler Asia Pacific. I've been in the field of operations and production for about 20 years now, and half of that time in Asia, specifically in China, and now I'm responsible also for Asia Pacific region. My field of interest is normally the production systems, lean management, process optimization, utilization of labor and machines, and of course now the topic of digitalization, big data, and AI can give us a great boost. And I think we will discuss some of that also this afternoon. So I'm really excited of this conversation we have here and the experience sharing. I'm based in Singapore. I live here since 2 years. Unfortunately, now, as you know, we cannot not travel, which also gives us a little challenge, but also probably a catalyst for big data and AI. Yes, thank you.
Awesome. So you're the human machine interface person, making automation happen in the world. Awesome. How about you, Celine? Say hello to everyone. Introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Celine Lecotonek. I'm currently the Chief Data and Innovation Officer for private bank called Bank of Singapore, which is the private arm of OCBC Group, one of the 3 local banks here in Singapore. Prior to that, I was doing the same thing in AXA Insurance Singapore. And before that, I spent about 12 years in China. I started my career in digital marketing. So I've been working in data quite a lot of time, but more on the marketing side in order to set up targeted advertisement, and then went into procurement for some years in order to be able to, so for a car manufacturer. So I was also working a lot on, the lean methodology and, but buying mainly services and a lot of media as part of this and digital media in China and doing a lot of partnership with the Alibaba, Baidu, Tencent of that world. Before I moved to R&D, being in charge of the connected car and how to monetize the connected car data for a car manufacturer. So that was I'm a sinologist by training, but I've been working with data scientists and engineer for all my life, and I'm bringing the aspect of the user experience and the monetization of the data, which is the business model behind for the company who have data or how to use data. And one of the big things that I'm doing now is working in organization in order to transform the organization in becoming a data-driven company, which means a lot of data culture, upskilling the people, looking with HR at what will be the next job of those people, where some of that job will be automated through Python script, for example, and how does the implementation of AI product change the processes in the organization.
Awesome. And you're 6 months into your new role, must be an exciting time to start. So I'm sure we can get a lot out from you as well from this interview and this dialogue. Yeah. So briefly, that those who have not just joined earlier, my name is Rachel. I'm the moderator for today, and these are my panel of speakers. Myself, I'm coming from Accenture, MD, representing Accenture for the Industry X.0, which is 4.0, including AI and whatnot. So I have about 23 years of experience. Initially started with B2C, telco, online media, where we transformed the whole media advertising space to 3 screens into 1. And then later on, I moved on to IoT area. And for the past 10 years, very focused on manufacturing and industrial. So previously, I was with GE, started the whole region on the digital platform. And digital twin and AI have never been more important before than right now. So it's going to be an exciting conversation we'll have today. Now, just to set the context right before we go on to the first question, I just want to open up the floor for the participants who just joined us. Let's start with the first poll question. We'd like to hear from you, right? First thing first, let's understand it's such a time of pandemic. So we are keen to hear from you what you're seeing, what you're going through. So the very first poll question, if you can help us out, is what you see. Has the pandemic accelerated adoption of big data and AI technologies in your organization? Yeah, if you can help us to answer that, that's going to be great.
Seems to be a clear winner there.
Yeah, that's a bit of lag from my side, so I'm not able to see the result published. Can you see the result published there?
Yes.
Yes.
Issue with my
55% of yes, 25% of no, and 20% not sure.
Awesome. There you go. So look, this is even though it's pandemic, it's COVID, but this is an opportunity time for reset and reinvent with AI and big data. So anyone who has joined, you're in the right forum. This is the future. Let us kickstart with the first question. Yeah. So look, the whole COVID has bring us to responding to it, either from human being perspective or organization perspective, to be resilient. And to a stage right now, we're trying to not just be resilient, but trying to reimagine and perhaps reset and also reinvent with AI and big data. Now, in your opinion, how has COVID influenced both short-term and long-term big data and AI growth? Maybe I'll direct this question first to Celine, being a CDIO. Maybe you can help me to answer that question first.
Yes, thank you. So I believe that the current COVID situation and notably the fact that people cannot travel anymore, is kind of changing the way we are currently managing the relationship with our customer, for example, at first, or even doing remote servicing for the people in manufacturing. And indeed, the digitalization in general is today one of the only means to be able to connect with people. I mean, this webinar is the proof of it, of course. But most importantly, we need to rethink, AI. A lot of people are using AI and big data, without really knowing what does that mean. I would like to be clear about the fact that artificial intelligence is just a process of optimization of already good process. This is why lean, for example, operation is very important, because you cannot jump from a fully paper-based process to an AI driven organization, because first you need to map out your process, standardize it, be able to digitalize it. And then after you bring AI to be able to optimize that process and make better decision and better forecasting. So there is still a long journey for every company, even though it has accelerating during the COVID. You still have 3 pillars that are very important whenever you want to implement use of data or AI in your organization. First pillar being the platform. You need to have a platform, a data lake where you can collect all the data to be able to analyze them or to be able to run some model. It's as basic as that. You need a platform and some tools to be able to do that. You need to have the people and the culture that go with it. Of course, you will need a data scientist, a data engineer, but you need as well the people in the organization to understand how AI can be used in their own activity. And AI will enable you to go from a reactive mode to a proactive mode. So of course the job of the people and the process in the organization need to adapt and need to change. You don't implement AI on all processes that are reactive processes. And most importantly now as well, the third pillar is the data governance. And it goes from, ensuring a good data quality coming from your system, a reliable data quality. And of course, for people in retail, that are managing personal data, all the security of the data privacy element that need to be taken into account from the start. And more in some industries, such as the financial industry, so bank or insurance, how do you ensure the ethic of your algorithm? Because this is becoming one of the big topics. So all those 3 pillars, and those are foundational pillars. Those are pillars that do take time, changing the mindset, getting the right operating model, getting the right people, job, and process reengineering are things that do take time. So then the organization can after be able to, operationalize AI. And then you have many use cases that can be applied. You have growth use cases. So a lot of, customer acquisition, cross-sell, customer prioritization, or, even like servicing prioritization in manufacturing. And then you have efficiency use cases. So in finance, we have a lot of fraud detection, but also being able to, optimize your processes, your factory processes. Those are all the use cases that are widely used across industry. But you cannot implement AI without the good platform, the right people, and the right governance out of it. So this is still a journey. And I do believe that the COVID crisis has accelerated the necessity for the organization to start to build those foundations and to get ready.
Perfect. So that's the 3 pillars we learned from you, Celine, today. Very important. Yeah. So let's look at what Klaus has been through as a COO in his working environment with machines and whatnot. Do you agree, or do you have other any other point of view adding to what Celine has shared?
No, I think it's perfectly said. So on short term, big data and AI is nothing on short term, right? So big data itself takes time to get all the data and then start to think about how to utilize this data and what patterns you can see here with tools and algorithms. But when you ask short-term, long-term strategies of the organization, I think if you look at the COVID situation, I would look at this as a stress test. And this stress test eliminated some of our dynamic systems, and all of a sudden we saw and experienced where we fell short and where we do not have any reaction. And this, I think it was a catalyst to sharpen the idea of our business and the use cases, as Celine also mentioned. So there's a wide variety of companies that explored that for a long time. But with this lack of flexibility and speed to react to the situation, I think it just helps us to more see where we really need to focus on for the next time frame on. And for sure, for operations, I think it's the supply chain management, the sales planning. It's the production, it's the availability of components, of spare parts, for example. Could we foresee that? Can we create models where we shut down some of these dynamic factors? And then how would our ecosystem globally, as we are a global company with 75 plants in the world, how would that react? How could we create availability of things? Yeah. And what impact would the shutdown of flight lanes, for example, have? That's also a big issue, a big problem we saw. Yeah? Flights got reduced more and more, so the availability of supply chain operations got really limited. So I think there's a huge potential, but as Celine also mentioned, it takes long term, and we need to just focus on the right direction. Maybe let me add one point. I think big data and the IE strategy for us did not change so much, except the sharpening part. But on the other hand, we also not did reduce anything, yeah. Because when you see on the sales development of a lot of companies, you will see that the market will not come back as fast as they think, and we reduce our capacities, we reduce our workforce, spendings, budgeted investments, all of these things. But I think it strengthens and kept valid valid plans to still invest in the development of AE and big data solutions for us at least. Yeah, so there was no slowdown here.
Thank you, Klaus. The operational environment, obviously, to you is very important to make sure that no plant shut down, things are still happening. Those are critical assets environment. Fantastic. Now, let us hear from Pranav. I mean, Pranav, you see a bigger picture, right? From where the strategy can be accelerated and short-term, long-term. In context of AI into a big picture, how do you see that's changing?
Sure. See, I think if, again, wearing a simple lens of when an organization uses technology, whether it's AI, BD, whatever, there are about 5 things that really add value. It adds value to. So number 1 is the revenue side. Number 2, can it decrease my cost? Number 3, can it improve my working capital? Number 4, can it help me in compliance or safety? Number 5, people engagement. So fundamentally, when you take this, all the razzmatazz of technology and put it on a simple P&L and a balance sheet, it's about 5. You could argue there could be innovation and other stuff, but I'll keep it at 5. Now, what has COVID done? COVID has fundamentally changed the demand pattern. So overnight, it wiped out the demand. So there's no demand. And traditionally, if you look at organizations, I think AI, BD, all comes in largely revenue-focused initiatives. So you're doing something for the future. I think, Celine said, it's a long-term thing. So when it's long-term, it's usually about new revenue lines creation, new value addition on a top line, etc. Now that's gone. So that went off overnight, and that demand will not come back. Everybody's lost demand. So everybody is on the same boat. So what, in the short term, what it's done is that it's going to accelerate the 2 of the key pain points that the organizations are facing. So the initiatives which are focused on A, working capital, B, cost savings, will naturally get prioritized in the short to medium term over anything that is long term on revenue. Health, safety, yes, we all want to be health HSAC compliant. I think that's there. But I think people engagement, yes. I mean, we need to save the jobs, yes. But fundamentally, I think for all organizations, as I see from this region, there would be acceleration of adoption of technology on solving those 2 critical points of the organization. And this, in my opinion, I think this is quite unprecedented, because usually there is revenue focus, there is usually a growth focus. Now we see people at different industry forums saying, okay, growth, I don't know, we need to survive. So that the steer, in my opinion, Rachel, I think, the steer given to these technologies, or the problems that these technologies need to solve are different.
Yeah.
And in the short to medium term, if there are opportunities that you go to organizations and say, hey, I will save you X% of your working cap, I think they will love to listen to you. In the long term, just to complete that answer, I think long term, I think you'll normalize it in that cadence that is there. I think you, in that pecking order, like you will have revenue going up front, then you go cost, then you go working cap, then you go HSAC, and then you go people. So I think that the true order would be sort of resumed in the 18 months period. But short term, working cap cost savings. If you have options for that, I think organizations are willing to listen.
I really love your perspective, Pranav, because in terms of prioritizing, this is a COVID time, right? That's a great use of technology, especially AI. But to your point, the application of it that drives outcome, that of the 5 things you look at in priority, that's going to be nailed on. And that's what I'm seeing from where I am as well in Accenture, where the client, where they put money is. So it's going to be, a resilient or AI customer-centric supply chain. I mean, to Klaus' point, right? And of course, cash flow, capex spend, return on capital investment, spot on, right? So exactly, AI can be used in those areas very specifically, and to everyone's point and to everyone's thinking about, that's where Pranav will think that's going to be great potential there. Now, since we are talking Pranav, I think you have a very nice big picture. So the second question, I'll probably start with you first. Now, what are the unexpected challenges and opportunities that you see for adoption? I kind of allude to that a little bit, but love your perspective.
Well, sure. I'll give a more personal perspective here. I think COVID. What is unexpected about COVID is that I think it's broken the organizations into two halves. One half that can work from home, the other half that has to
Yeah,
go to work, go to a place to work and deliver results on the ground. So
the
we never looked
essentials.
at yeah, I think we never looked at organizations this way, right? I mean, we never thought that HR can work from home, plant has to go to the
Yeah,
plant.
yeah,
So that's a very different lens that has been created. It may not be up in the, it's not visible yet, but I think I'm sure that a lot of organizations are thinking in two halves. And I think if you look at specifically on both sides of the equation, what are the challenges that are facing? So what is the work from home challenge? There are two big challenges as I see it. I think one is is how do I make the same decisions that I was making in the past without having to physically interact, without having to be on the ground, without having to get the pulse of the market or the pulse of the people, and then make a judgment call or a decision. So all
mm,
that human element of decision making now gets translated by pure data. So I need now to, or anybody in that organization, when I say I mean I look at industry around me. Everybody is making big decisions sitting at home. So do we have enough fuel there? Do you have enough data linkages there? Do we have enough cross linkages of data? Everything that is there to make that
mm,
decision. And that's very different when you're making a decision in a room with 20 people, understanding the body language, understanding what the guy is saying, and he's not really saying because he doesn't want to say it.
absolutely,
All that element. Second
absolutely.
challenge from working from home is how do I engage with people? So engagement is not like a Zoom call or what we're doing here is great, but engaging people for results is very different from having a nice conversation with a cup of coffee. So those are the two big challenges I would say that are coming from a working from home half of the organization. To complete my point on the working not from home, i.e., the people, I think Klaus would be a master of that. People going to the plants, the warehouse, the logistics, the driver, the lorry guy, the loader, the unloader, forklift, reach truck, every guy who is actually there making the business happen, and sales. I mean, they're field sales people
Mm,
who need to go out. I mean, they have to wear a mask and go out. So that challenge now, what the organizations are thinking is that, hey, I mean, is this two people dependent? Um, can I lean it, or can I, like how Houston manages Mars? Can I sit here and manage all the plants in the world? So uh, I think all those things are getting thrown out as which were very future driven ideas are suddenly coming online and say, hey, can we do this without having to go there? So I think those are the big challenges, Rachel. I would say, if I bucket it that way. Sorry, I'm a little stickler for bucketing things because it helps me to keep track of whatever it is.
it's okay.
But I think
No,
that would be the two big areas which I think would be a great problem for you guys as practitioners to solve.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Pranav. That's a very good opening for us to have Klaus add in what he's thinking, right? Because essential. I mean, he obviously deal with essentials, with the trucks, with the logistics, with the warehouse, making sure the plants are still up and running, though people working from home. So
Yeah.
what's your view of unexpected challenges and even opportunity? If you were to have a startup, that's something you would go on, to really tackle them because there's no talent, there's no capabilities yet. So
Yeah.
what's your thought there, Klaus?
Yeah, so I will just add on what Pranav said. So being in the specifically maybe in the region Asia Pacific here, where we also are growing with our business, where we build up new plants, we had quite some challenges. So if there's a very simple problem which came up, we never thought about it. How do you onboard people if you cannot go to the office? Yeah. So when we talk about big data and IE and digitalization, we are looking for new talents. We are looking for new skills. So we need to staffing these our teams. But how do you onboard if the office is closed, if people cannot travel? How do you notice it? And then how you introduce into the company culture and the basics? So on the other hand, once we have these experts globally spread in the world, how do you get all the knowledge now, which you normally either by meetings, as Pranav said, you come together, you look at a problem, you discuss for some time. It's impossible. And on a Skype call or Teams call or whatever, this doesn't happen. Very limited, very technical, very small view you can see there. The interaction is not the same. So how do we transfer now? And that's one of the challenges, but also opportunities if we do it right. How do we bring now the knowledge of the people into a database, and then later on be smart enough to have an algorithm to give us the right direction and the right clue of all the knowledge we have already. It's not that we don't have the knowledge, but at the moment we cannot make it available in real time to the world, independent of a time zone. So there were some challenges for us how to keep on moving forward, because yes, sales are down. We look into working capital. We need to reduce our costs, but on the other hand, we're looking for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years where we have new products, where we have new solutions for the customers. These things need to be still developed and tested and brought to the market. We cannot just certainly stop and wait until it becomes better. So how do we bring the people together, as Pranav said, and how do we bring the knowledge? How do we make knowledge available, independent of these kind of situations where meeting each other, interacting is totally different? Yeah. And I think AI and big data here certainly has a position to have a solution for that. But again, it takes some time here.
So that's the challenges, yeah.
Yes.
Talent people take some time to really transfer and migrate those real people knowledge to algorithms and machines to make it work.
Yes.
How about you, Celine, from your perspective and a banking perspective, especially for the last 6 months, right? You come in timely, and what challenges and unexpected opportunities do you observe?
Yeah, so to be honest, I mean, I come from private banking, so banking in general is quite lacking behind in terms of digital transformation, especially private banking. I mean, to be realistic, we cannot talk about big data because at the end of the day, we're not a factory that is producing a lot of time series data, which we don't have that much data, to be honest. But the question is, how do we use data to make data-driven decision? For our management to maybe stop those meetings where at the end of the day the decision is taken out of the guy who shouts the loudest, and how now through data can we as well try to explain or forecast in a more reactive manner what is the situation of our portfolio and what will be the behavior of our customer. One of the other big aspects that COVID brought to us. So apart from the collaboration that I do definitely agree, it's a big part. We've moved the people and the organization to collaborative tool. We have opened some system, so it helps as well change the mindset a lot regarding risk and compliance, and even the regulator themselves, because, always in banking and financial services, we are heavy regulated industry. So, there is a kind of risk adverse attitude because of, what would be the reaction of the regulator. Now to having Monetary Authority of Singapore being the one that are telling us you need to work from home, you need to open your system through VPN for people to be able to place order from home is already a huge I don't think that I would have actually managed to reach to that level in 3 years of doing data and innovation in the organization. But COVID did actually transform the mindset from the regulator to the management to all of the people in security and compliance. So that was a huge game changer, and a lot of pressure being put on the contrary to what we are usually used to in banking. Sorry. The third aspect is about the customer experience. We are traditionally a very private banker with a suitcase that is flying over from Singapore to wherever place of the world we have customer in order to kind of manage their wealth and propose them products, especially in our industry where our customer and our product are very bespoke to the type of customer we are managing on wealth management. Today, it's not feasible to do that. And it's not feasible as well to meet new prospects because, we're not flying anymore and we're not meeting anymore our customer. So how do we actually, leverage on available data outside on partnership with digital player, with traditional player in order to use those data and be able to identify new prospects and forecast the behavior of our customer. Another thing that I wanted to add is, in terms of product as well. So there are a few things. I mean, at an organization level, data can be used to improve either, as you say, revenue growth, customer satisfaction, or a cost reduction, working capital efficiency. But there is also one thing where data is important and AI is more and more important in the industries. How do you create new product out of it? So should it be IoT, like a connected car that help you to after create new connected car services? Or in the world of finance, we have seen the emergence of AI managed funds. So those are, funds that are not managed through portfolio manager anymore, but through a suite of algorithm, that were actually doing drastically better than the traditional fund in terms of performance when you have a high volatility of the market. So this is also something when AI start to be embedded in a product that is changing drastically the product and the industry.
Thank you, Celine. So that's an added perspective in terms of customer experience is important, and so as the product innovation side of things in the banking industry. Thanks for those very nice response, and we get to see different perspective and coming together. Let us do a short pause. Let us go to the polls, and dear participants, if you can help us to answer the second poll question before we get to the third question. Has your organization's budget for big data and AI technology increased within the past 6 months? Is that yours, Celine? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, again, there's some issue on my screen, so I can't see the real-time result. Maybe someone can help me out if you get to see it. Pranav and Celine, do you see, or Klaus, do you see the real?
39% no, 38% no, 33% yes, 31% not sure.
Wow, that's pretty borderline. So it's kind of a lot of uncertainty. I think we can relate to this just based on our discussion earlier on. The readiness, the governance, the transition is not quite happening yet to really make it work.
But I would like to ask a question to my fellow panelists. I mean, do you have a line in your budget called Big Data and AI? Because at the end of it, you do?
Oh, we have it as on the headline of digitalization. And so for operations, we call it digitalization operations, where we, of course, have a budget for infrastructure, which then goes into the availability of AI and big data, or how to get to the server structure, the cameras for the artificial intelligence, visual checks, and so on. Yeah, that's what we have. And I said that before. To the question here, we did not increase or decrease, keeping it stable. Whereas other investment blocks maybe were probably adjusted to the sales volume, which we see in the future. So gives a strong signal also from our company into our organization to keep moving forward and not slowing down in terms of digitalization and big data and AI.
Yeah. So that's a good question, because like even from my point of view in Accenture, we've serviced the clients, right? Of course, obviously they spend less, but areas they spend more is really where they can help solve the problem. To Pranav's point, those are the 5 key elements: cash flow, and AI can play a key part in those areas. So that's where we are still seeing a high peak of spending money in terms of digital workforce, like autonomous workforce. That's a key one, like from cloud to cloud environment, for example. AI, customer-centric supply chain, definitely the cash flow. That's important. So all this, again, with my experience, how these are the area that big data and AI can be applicable to. But I think the question is how ready we are, right, to really spot on to make that as a use cases. Yeah, for real. Okay, let's move on to the third question. And for this question, I'll direct it to Klaus first. How have you, or how can you leverage on AI and big data to help you relieve impact? Because in your environment, it's completely operational, right? You need it's essentials. So how have you, or how can you leverage on AI to relieve that impact there?
Okay, so I think what I mentioned before is how do we make knowledge available globally in real time? That's one point. So how, first of all, do we collect all the knowledge? How we transfer knowledge into data, which then can be utilized? But also other use cases we have now, which go in direction of working capital, but it's more the utilization of existing equipment, existing capacities we have. How can we use data to utilize it more? How to increase efficiency? And when we go a little bit on the emotional side of our people in this time, I mean, this is work is work, but the environment, the news, whatever, I think it has also on us with the home office emotional impact on us. So how do we make the life easier of our staff by taking decision problems from them away? Yeah. So how do we can utilize data to make decisions, to steer a process, to help them to be expert in their field where we don't have a solution with big data and AI. So predictive maintenance, for example, is something where we can really utilize big data also in a more or less fast way already. When we go to visual inspections, for example, it takes, of course, a lot of data to learning, giving into machine learning a lot of pictures. But these are the things now where we focus on to come to a higher efficiency of the whole organization and reducing the stress of everyone. So this is something I think the situation here, again, the kind of stress test showed us that these are fields where we would see immediately benefit on the worker capital side, but also on retention side of employees probably, or on well-being, for example. And of course, then at the end, it's also for the customers that we reduce side effects of a not okay part or a delay in services, delay in deliveries, and so on. When we look into the whole supply chain, I think when we start to connect now our supplier network, our own throughput time, our own value streams, going into inventory planning, going into distribution channels, how can we utilize here big data? We heard before also this will shift from an face-to-face distribution with salespeople into also more anonymous digital platform sales channels. Right, I think there's a big move now. We see all these numbers from the big e-commerce channels all over the world. So how can we participate in that? And what kind of data do we need? How do we need to streamline our supply chain and our production to react to that? Also, the supply chain's time will change. But I think there's a right lots of opportunities now when we look to really analyze the situation, how big data can give us an advantage, which we did not have before or see before or prioritize before in that way. Yeah.
Wow, this is cool, right? So you're giving a picture of the gaps in the whole value chain today.
Yes.
Where AI potentially can be the link even from a traditional business model to the new model of digital commerce coming back to you as well, and you going out to them. So yeah, participants, you hear that. This is a good opportunity for you to start thinking things differently, and we can start doing things differently. Well, we have the next question addressing of the future, but I think Klaus, you have alluded to that's where the gaps are in this time. Uh, Celine, I come back to you. Like how have you leveraged with that? I mean, we understand your environment, right? In the banking environment, private banking environment, but so far, how has AI? How have you leveraged on AI to relieve the impact?
I think a lot of things that we have, I mean, you imagine it's a financial crisis. So our customers are all worried about what's going to happen to their wealth. They're looking for advice, they're looking for, they want to be reassured. So what we work a lot on, and, how can we create more touch point? How can we enable our bankers, our relationship manager through video conferencing, through being able to target the right, piece of research, the right webinar according to the composition of the portfolio of our customer, and how can we actually relieve as well a lot of our I would say back office workforce from strenuous process in the past, in order to automate them a bit more, so they could free time to be on the phone with our customer, to be able to advise them, to be able to reassure them, to give them perspective. And we've been as well increasing, touch point and content. So through webinar, through newsletter, through creating new digital channel in order to be able to, again, advise our customer, even though remotely, which is something that they were not really used for before. And on the other side is how can we forecast better, forecast the demand, forecast, what activity do we need to stop, do we need to accelerate, and in terms of more strategy planning, where do we need to focus our resource. And this data can help us to identify the trend within the market, so using external data and internal data within the market, within our customers, so it can support as well the management to take more data-driven decision on the next action for the company.
I mean, your area is interesting, right? Because you have private banking clients that deal with data every minute, every second, and this is money, right? So this is your own money. So in the past, they got to rely on a private banker to give them information and research base. But do you think AI can play a tool role there to, in fact, help them make timely decision without relying too much on private bankers?
Yes. I mean, at the end of the day, the private banker is still a relationship manager. There is a full-fledged people that are working on product and advisory and research on the market that are advising the customer behind. And a lot of, unfortunately, the role of bankers today are still about signing papers, so we as well launched some OCR feature, e-signature, video conferencing and recorded video conferencing. So in terms of compliance, this is okay to validate a trade. So a lot of use of technology and especially a bit of OCR and NLP and topic modeling in order to understand what is the main concern today of our customers. So in a rapid and effective manner. So at the end of the day, we were very focused toward customer experience and reassuring our customer in this time of crisis.
Thank you, Celine. What do you think, Pranav? Do you have any points to add there?
Sure. I think both Klaus and Celine have covered from all aspects of, typically what the organizations are doing. So I'll just take it a little bit more on a societal level. I think because I'm operating out of India for the last 2 years, and I mean what I see is a seismic shift in the attitude of people towards work. So when I said earlier what I said in terms of work from home, it's never been a culture here. You've never had people working from home in this society where your practically your work is associated with going to office. So I think given that this is going to be the new norm, at least for the next 18 months, there seems to be a lot of interest in this space of how to make this better. I think decisions we all spoke about, Klaus spoke about. But how do we engage these guys better? How do you engage these people better? I think that's sort of a common theme that is going around with a lot of typical organizations like the B2B typical traditional organizations, and a lot of focus has again shifted from the startups and the ecosystem where it's all these guys are always in the news, but the economy is really being driven by by the bread and butter sectors. And there's a lot of challenges that these guys are facing in the current crisis, and they will continue to face so. So the tech can play a big role in solving some of these problems. Like I mentioned, engagement, better decision making. I think both of the panelists talked about it. But literally, could this be a drive towards autonomous driving? I mean, I remember when we restarted the economy in May, there were no drivers to drive the trucks. So all the stuff is on the truck, but the drivers are all gone home, and rightfully so, because they're worried about their own safety. So I think that debate around automation in the sectors which were traditionally said, don't worry about it, this is 20 years down the line, I think that's getting accelerated, and that perhaps is an opportunity for I mean, yes, Microsoft can play a big role in that, and others in that space as practitioners to come in and solve that problem. Can you really accelerate the adoption of tech? And not specifically, let's say, AI or machine learning, all those are terminologies, but essentially adoption of what simple thing what Celine was mentioning about just simplifying processes. I mean, just simplifying processes. Is that possible in those kind of traditional sectors of the economy? That's a real area of interest. I think it's gaining steam. It's really coming onto the mainstream, and the right time to jump into and see what problems can be solved.
And I would like to add on Pranav's point. I think that the current crisis as well, if we take really a leap forward on what's happening, you're mentioning autonomous vehicle, we can mention about telemedicine as well, and what it has helped as well is to kind of break the current lobby that actually you're breaking the industry, because I used to work in automotive. I can tell you that I was working on the autonomous driving roadmap, and in 2030, the technology will be ready. The question is the lobby. The question is the overall regulation around it. And why is it? I mean, because this is all those technology will transform the society as well. Autonomous vehicle. When you take a country like France, 10% of the people do rely on automotive industry today to get a job, from the factory, from the tier 1, tier 2 supplier. I'm not even counting the driver, So at the end of the day, the society is not ready. So this is why the government are afraid of that, Taking another example, telehealth and telemedicine. I used to work in insurance. We've been forever trying to promote, telehealth and, but actually, is it the business model of the hospital? Let's be very frank here. The business model of a doctor is for you to come back, especially in Singapore, in the region. Whenever you're sick, the first thing that a doctor will ask you is, okay, let's take another appointment, whether you need it or not. Let's take another appointment just to check, which increase the cost of healthcare at the end of the day, because all of those doctor visits are paid by an insurance company, should it be governmental or private one. So today, with the fact that people could not move to the hospital, finally, telemedicine solution that have been around for quite some time and were already working quite well have boomed and have skyrocketed up to the roof, because this is the right thing to do at the end of the day. You don't always need to go and see a doctor and go into a hospital to actually get a first consultation, right, and just to get some Panadol or whatever, and this is currently the case. So by being forced through this COVID situation and lockdown and circuit breaker, however you want to call it, this has boomed some technology that were still here but blocked by a lot of I would say other lobbying industry that are not in favor of that.
Just to add two points to that, I think it's an excellent point. One is, along with telemedicine is online education. I'm sure all your kids and my kid is also tuned into the laptop the whole day. That's one industry that might get disrupted. I think the other aspect is, if you look at historically, we go back to, say, 1900s, the doctor used to come home, the teacher used to come home. I mean, there were no malls to go to, right? The farmer or whoever is producing goods, or they used to all come home and deliver everything. So the whole concept of getting people out of the house is the idea behind commercialization and consumerism, right? You get the guy out of the house, make him to do 25 things which he anyway doesn't want to really do, and at the end of the day, it oils the economy. So we've really gone back to 1800s. Everything is coming home. The doctor's coming home. The teacher's at home, whether it's digitally or physically. The groceries are at home. Milk is coming home. You really don't need to get out of the house. So I think it's really it's a unique opportunity if the practitioners are able to jump on this and actually create something more sustainable moving forward.
So this is great, right? You already covered the question for which I wanted to ask the future of AI. So that's exactly the point, right? We have just gone through the whole pandemic and just still going through it. The resilience part we have gone through. We are going through reimagination and reinvention, to your point, Pranav, and to Celine, to your point as well. That's going to be the future, reinvention. So what other ideas that you'd like to share with the audience? Just take like 1 or 2 minutes, 3 each, so that audience can have a good sense of the future of AI. Yeah, before we jump
But
into the poll
building
questions.
up on Pranav, I think it's time as well to reinvent our business model, like capitalism and being able to only count on, revenue and dollar. I mean, how is that sustainable? A lot of people will lose their job, and how,
Yeah.
some of the people will be winner of the COVID crisis, but how many people will be loser out of this crisis? And how do we help those people, And this is a
I like
real
that.
societal question, how is the society catering for all those, F&B restaurant, for all the, the people
Correct.
that has been retrenched in the company,
Yes.
there is
Yeah.
opportunity for digitalization, but at the end of the day, what do we do with all those people that will be losing their job? And this is also a way of reinventing as well the model that we're working on. There are opportunity for sustainability, but there are always been, and we never implemented them because unfortunately they don't bring that much money, correct? So that's as well that's a bigger physical question, but how do we
Yeah.
prepare ourselves for AI, and what is the business model behind? If we have only autonomous driving car, if we have only telehealth medicine and delivery, then like, of course there will be like gig economy that is growing, but how do the government manage retirement, social security, or insurance? We need to reinvent our social model behind, as well, to support the people.
Absolutely. The governance, the responsible AI part of things, the ethics, the human machines policies making, those are close to my heart as well as a AI practitioner. So yeah, so I think that's a future, and hope that all of us here, even the audience as well, those who are in the leadership position, playing a big role in AI and big data, I hope all of us take that to heart, that we can really make a difference and have a better social environment for people. Machines were up and rising for sure, and you have energy transition, we have long life batteries charging up machines. They're going to be living long life than us. But it's so important to really think about the difference of general AI, think about the difference of super AI, and think about the difference of subject matter AI. So I think to really be clear about that, to really make decisions based on ethics and right social behavior, even before the government come up with policies, right? It's going to take some time. So I think one of the takeaway out of our time today is really that, just to make sure that we help human being to live better, yet we utilize AI in the right way. Yeah. So let's go to the last poll question before we have like just 4 minutes for Q&A. I hope the participant can answer this question as well. What is the biggest challenge your organization have in adopting AI? Number one, not having enough budget, lack of technical employees, experience in AI, company does not yet recognize the needs, or technical infrastructure challenges. Okay. There's some reasons why I don't see the screen. I still don't know why. Do you see the results? You can help me out. For now, I know you're smiling.
Company does not recognize the needs of AI yet. 41%.
Oh, okay.
That's the clear. I think 37 now, but I think it's still going to be the number one.
Wow. So it tells us a lot, right? It's the awareness of what AI can do, and therefore the readiness we talk about, the gaps. Even though AI can help a lot, but it's just not there yet. Okay. We only left 6 minutes. I'm conscious of time. I just want to give some time back to the audience for questions. So the first question, let me look at the questions that are coming in. publish. Okay, there are a couple of questions here. There are many questions here. Let us start with the first, right? The first question, for the bank, have you found that your existing pre-COVID AI and machine learning algorithms are now obsolete as they're based on past consumer behavior, or are you finding the AI learning framework is adapting correctly? I think that's an obvious question to Celine.
Yes, definitely. I think that we just need to, at the end of the day, so past AI and machine learning algorithm, what we are using forecasting model in finance today is more to finance to look at the behavior of the market, not that much the behavior of the customer at the end of the day. So this is where, a lot of models in the finance industry that were used to forecast what would be the movement of the market have failed because they were not able to adapt quickly enough to the change of behavior of the market. At the end of the day, the behavior of the customer were linked to a crisis, so it's a bit different, I would say. But yeah, not in my bank specifically, because we only distribute product from other fund, but in a lot of the fund industry, the model that were actually forecasted for the portfolio investment were outdated because based on previous market data and not being able to adapt quickly enough. This is why some AI-driven portfolio managers, such as Quantum Rock, for example, one of the big rising of portfolio who did 36% increase, while the rest of the SP 500 was down 10%, are actually working because they have several dynamic AI portfolio strategies. So it's a much more sophisticated AI compared to the traditional fund manager. I'm not sure I answered the question, but that's how AI are mainly used in finance today. It's more on the market.
Thank you, Celine. The next question directed at Klaus. Do you see challenges in working with people on AI? And how do you overcome that?
Yeah, so big data from the intercultural perspective. So I have to say, being in Asia, of course, makes it a little bit easier. My personal feeling, because the society, the countries here are very attached to digitalization, to using mobile devices. Yeah, being in Singapore, being in China, everything is online available, right? So we are on the frontier here of digitalization, I would say, in Asia, Southeast Asia. But if looking at a bigger picture, I would say it's a change management program. If you just look at scientifically on big data and IE, it's a technical thing about IT infrastructure, data architecture, and data science. But the other part is now how do we create a benefit and a value add for anyone who is in that chain. So working on big data and IE, if the operators, if the staff, if the customer has a benefit out of that, that would be much easier. Otherwise, the solutions will not come. We just heard from Celine on medical, on healthcare sector, there was an immediate benefit and solving a problem. So that's why it was faster and available now and accepted. Solutions where we don't have an acceptance, no benefit, no value add, will take much longer. I also see that the big data and AI only works with the right leadership and change management programs. We should not be scared of, in the future world, everything will be automated and cars driving by themselves. I think this is too far away. And as long as we create benefits and values, this will happen. So these things will bring up our environment, and everyone will participate of that. So it depends on how we deal with this, how we communicate, and how we let everyone be a part of that and have an experience. I think it's all about having a personal experience and positive experience with that, to utilize that. And then also the organizations, doesn't matter if it's in Korea, then in Germany, in the US, they have an interest and they will keep on working on solutions, but also they will using these solutions. So
right.
Yeah,
so it's really bringing people along the journey with you with the right leadership to make that happen. Yeah. Okay, I think we have only time for one last question. I'll have maybe Pranav help out on the question. Will companies be too myopic if they focus on working capital and cost savings, if the V-shaped recovery come fast.
Okay, whoever has asked the question, I really hope the V-shape comes fast, irrespective of what my views on AI are. Not really. I think when we look at working capital, when we look at cost saving, it's not for survival. I think the underlying thematic there is, are we being more fit for purpose? Are we being more resilient? Should a second wave come? Should there be another kind of a COVID 2025 or whatever that is? So I think the thematic the thematic here is a bit different from a typical, say, a financial crisis where everybody is just trying to swim. But here the thematic is more forward-looking, resilience, shock-resistant, future-proof. I think those are the big themes. So it's a different setup. I think it's not really about just saving costs for the short term.
Thank you, Pranav. I think we are just right at the top of the hour, 4 o'clock. Look, thank you so much. It's been a great conversation having respective perspective and how COVID has actually pushed the importance of big data and AI. So in summary, we do see gaps. We do see gaps. We need more awareness around governance as well, responsibilities as well, if we were to accelerate further, which is the case to come. And this is a great time for reinvention as well. And let's make AI useful, fit for purpose, to Pranav's point. So that's how we can help on the bottom and top line of the organizations. And remember to help human out with responsible AI ethics out there. Thank you so much for your time, key panels, speakers here, and also all the participants. I hope you enjoyed the dialogue today and wish you well and stay safe. Happy day ahead. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.